Welcome to this edition of Sisters of Wellness, sewing into the lives of the next generation. I'm your host, Pamela D. Marshall with At the Wellness Network Publishing. We're so glad you took time to join us today as we share wisdom with the goal of empowering and sharing love to meet and inspire and nurture the next wave of leaders, healers, and change makers. And tonight we have a fantastic show. I'm thrilled to welcome to At the Wellness Network, Sisters of Wellness, a group of ladies and gentlemen, the producer of the show, director of the show. We're going to be honoring some African American women during Black Women's History Month. We're in Black History Month now, but during Women's History Month, it's called If Dolls Could Talk. This is a show that we bring to life the voices of 6 very powerful women in our history. And I'm going to be a part of the group as Ida B. Wells. But tonight I'm really pleased to have 2 of the other cast members who will be a part of this show as well. One is playing Betsy Coleman and the other is playing Maya Angelou. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us. How's your day going?
Can't complain.
Day is going very well, very blessed, and happy to be here.
Tony and Demetria, has been a pleasure working with you ladies, and I know that we're all very excited about what we're going to be able to bring to the audience. This play is called If Dolls Could Talk. Rhonda Wilson, who is the founding director of the Star Theater here in Gainesville, she actually has the Barbie dolls. So did you guys get to see the Barbie dolls?
Yes, the very first night of rehearsal, I walked in, and I'm nosy, and I saw colored boxes. They weren't up and facing; they were just a bunch of colored boxes on the box office desk. I just wanted to look over there and see like what was so pretty, and it was all the dolls. I didn't know that she had. I had no idea that she had the dolls. I just thought it was going to be like a prop, like, oh, we'll have a doll dressed like the character. That was cool.
Yeah. So Tony, what did you think? What did you think initially? You're playing the very powerful role of Maya Angelou, as Oprah says, Maya Angelou. Some of us say Maya Angelou. Either way we say her name, her voice has left a mark on the literary community as well as on us as women.
Well, I'll say I am very honored to be portraying her as a daughter. My mother was a literary scholar, teacher, professor. She was a teacher in Marion County for 33 and a half years, literature, English, reading. So I grew up with the works. I grew up with the art. I grew up with the words and the poetry. And for me to come full force and be able to actually portray this character is very honoring for me, and it's also very humble.
And
Not,
how familiar were you, Demetria, with Betsy Coleman, the first African American woman to get her pilot's license?
I have active bursts on social media, and so there was a year, maybe it was last year, year before last, where she was one of the days, either in February for Black History or uh, March for Women's History, where I did like a little tidbit on Bessie Coleman. But it was like a tidbit. I was like, okay, she got the first pilot's license. I'm not even sure I knew that she went to France. I think I just knew that she was the first Black woman to get a pilot's license. So I learned a lot just from reading the little vignette that I have in the script.
Hey,
Hey.
Thank you
I
so much for
Kevin.
being here.
hey, good evening, ladies.
You know,
Good evening.
as we are bringing these dolls and these voices to the stage, as Demetria was saying, learning. Thank God for social media today, because
Yeah.
I don't know if you all get the feeds and see the various people and incidents that have happened during history, doing a much better job than the history that we got in school. And I know you and Tony, Demetria and Tony, parents were educators, and you're still learning things.
Yeah, that's what surprises me. Because at first I was like, I was going into college when social media was getting big, and it was like, oh, you can just keep track of your friends. And like for me, it was like an inter college dorm thing. Like, oh, everybody, this is what's happening on third floor. This is the little social gathering here, the lunch gathering here. And then it became like, oh, okay, you can connect to friends you haven't seen since like childhood in a different city or a different state. And then it became, oh, it's like the internet. It could be educational, and then nosedived into I will spew my particular opinion at you, knowing that we don't disagree. But no, if you curate your feed, there's so many educators, professors, people who just dedicated their lives to uncovering or rediscovering or just spreading things that my mom's a history teacher. She had books around, and yet there's things that you just don't know. Just like you said, the school system has its own focus, and it's just not important, or it's not what they want you to hear.
We're talking with fellow actresses who are a part of a show that's going to be March 8th through the 16th at the Stars Theater in Gainesville, Florida, written by Rhonda Wilson. She has the Barbie dolls of each of the women that we are portraying. And she said she had them lined up in her bedroom, and she would look at them and think, if these dolls could talk. And Kevin, how did you get involved with this production? And what were your thoughts on it initially when Rhonda approached you about directing?
Originally, I was scheduled to direct another play called Secession, which would have been closing about right now. Um, Rhonda called me and she said, "I've written a play, but I'm busy because I have other obligations." She said, "Would you read it and tell me what you think?" So I met her down at the theater the next night, and I took the script home and read it. And I'm partial to doing things that have to do with women's history. You know, I've always had a soft spot, and the ladies were all a very compelling story. You know,
Mhm.
they were all supremely accomplished in their own right. Um, None of them allowed the mentality of the day to keep them from achieving their goals, you know. And so I was excited to take this piece on. You know.
So we have Ida B. Wells, Betsy Coleman, Madam C.J. Walker, Ella Fitzgerald, Maya Angelou, and Rosa Parks. Those are the ladies that are a part of this show. For Tony, you're doing Maya, and Demetria, you're doing Betsy Coleman. I'm doing Ida B. Wells, portraying Ida B. Wells. Have you all discovered things that you didn't know about these ladies?
I have discovered I didn't know that Maya sung. And I discovered that she sung because all the times I've actually heard her pieces or heard someone portray her pieces was spoken word. But she also had a very nice singing voice too. And she could break into song on the drop of a dime. So she was a very, very talented, but very humble and very powerful soul.
Demetria?
Well, like I was saying, I didn't know that she went to France. I didn't know that she moved and was waitressing and got help through the Chicago paper editor, and essentially got like crowdfunded to go to France to get her license. I just didn't know any of those details. I just thought she was a really spunky young woman who really wanted to fly and just kept at it in a day when women and blacks were discouraged from doing that, and just was strong enough to keep going until she did it. Even though it makes perfect sense that you did have to pay for flight school, so where would she have gotten the money? And yeah, I just never thought about it.
Yeah, the bits and pieces that we hear about their stories, but the backstories are the encouraging part. Their stick to itiveness to keep going, to keep pushing in a day. I mean, the Ida B. Wells, life being threatened, burning down, destroying what she was trying to build up. As we were discussing last night, one of the common threads that I hear in these stories is these women were being told that they were to something else that would have stopped them from moving forward, whether it was you're too loud or what you're speaking is, too dangerous because you're speaking truth, or you're not good enough. How is it that these ladies and each of you can talk about this when the audience comes to see these dolls talk again? How is it that these stories can help inspire us in this moment in time?
Well,
I've
I
been
know.
told my whole life I am too loud, and most of the adult jobs I have
Huh.
had a microphone. And my current profession being medically based, I have to make sure I'm heard. So it's hard in the moment to push through when you're a kid, when you're a teenager. When you're a teenager, you want to fit in. So people tell you you're being weird or stupid, you tend to stop or hide it. But all the people we look up to, they're all people who pushed through or who didn't really, even if they hit it, they didn't let go of it. So I feel like my generation's very much into showing the next generations that you have to keep going. That's the only way anything ever changes. If there's a problem and you just say, oh, well, it didn't work for them, so it won't work for me, it'll never get fixed. I could have stopped. Having your office burned down is pretty serious. Um, Being told by every flight school that you can't fly, being physically dragged off of buses. These are all very serious things that do stop people. I wouldn't blame them for stopping, but because they didn't, we got that much further.
Yeah, Tony?
Well, Maya, I don't know if a lot of people know, Maya suffered abuse at a very early age as a young girl at the hands of someone that she should have been able to trust or thought she could trust. And she literally stopped speaking for about 5 years of her life. She did not utter a word. And you take this woman that's so powerful and so prolific in her speech and in the way that she addresses the world that so many people know about, but they don't understand the underlying cause of why she is so outspoken at the point that they get to know her. So the story, it gives people a chance to see how these dolls, how these people actually came to the point that they were, that made them famous, that made them stand out, that made them outstanding. It's because they went through some things in life that caused them to have to rise above what they were going through.
Yeah, Maya felt like the fact that she told what happened to her, the sexual abuse that happened to her, and then the man ended up dead at the hands of somebody. And she felt
Yes.
like her words killed him. And do you see that as part of what women go through in our self-deprivation? Even though things are happening to us, then
Well,
we can pull the blame in on us and we suffer as a result.
yes, we're oftentimes told that we are the victims or we're the reason that it happened, or if you hadn't wore this, maybe if you, didn't say certain words or didn't carry yourself in such a way, it would have happened. So we're made to be the victim, and when someone else gets in trouble for it, or we try to, bring justice, then we're the ones that's being shamed and being told that no, you shouldn't be saying anything.
Even as we're hearing about these ladies, superficially, what we are hearing, I'm thankful that we are now a part of being able to share their backstories. And Kevin, as you are directing us in this show, If These Dolls Could Talk, which will be March 8th through the 16th at the Star Theater in Gainesville, Florida. Hope that all of you who are listening will come and spread the word with others. Kevin, as you are, and you say that you're partial to these kinds of productions, how do you, as a man, help to share and then bring these voices to the forefront? Or why is it important to you?
Well, for far too long, women have been the unsung heroes of our community and of the larger society, as it were. Um, all of these women were, as I said before, were great achievers, and a reason I like to tell these stories is to encourage women not to be afraid to go beyond what people are used to them doing. You know, um, all of these women were considered civil rights workers, activists before that was even a thing. You know, uh, you normally don't associate civil rights activists during the 20s or the 30s. Um, for example, Ida attended 3 colleges. She was a very educated woman. She attended Russ College, Fisk University, and Lemoyne College. She was a very accomplished woman. Fun fact: in 1912, Ida stopped being associated with the NAACP because they thought she was too radical.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Now that part I didn't know.
she was she was solely driven by her conscience and what her heart told her to do. You
Well,
um,
that's as you're mentioning her education. Those who have heard about Ida B. Wells usually just know that she was a writer, a journalist. But as this play points out, she met with 4 different presidents of the United States of America, a
mhm,
Black woman, a woman during that day, having that level of access, that she met with 4 different presidents of the United States and urging them to declare lynching a federal crime. She's the first one that asked for that. And it
mhm,
just got signed
mhm.
by President Joe Biden.
Yep.
That long ago, people hanging from trees was not considered a crime, a federal crime, much of any crime at all. But that Ida B. Wells was urging presidents of the United States to do that. And I, I was quite shocked when I saw that because we minimize who these women are. And as you said, Kevin, these women were one of you said, civil rights activists that we don't hear about. There have been books written about the women of the civil rights movement, which would
Mhm,
not have existed had it not been for women. Maya uh, and her poetry, uh, just like with Mahalia Jackson and her
mhm,
relationship with Dr. King. pushing him forward. But we have always been taking the back seat. And so to be a part of this show, what does it mean to you individually, Tony, to be able to be a part of this cast and share these stories?
Well, to me, it means we get a chance to let. To me, I think the young children, the teenagers are the ones I really want to reach with this, because a lot of them don't know what Black women had to go through. A lot of them don't know that even today, Black women are still having to go through some of these things. We're still being persecuted. We're still being looked at as less than. We're still being considered second class citizens or even third class citizens. So for them to know that they don't have to deal with that stigmatism, they don't have to accept that there's women that came before that went through things in order for us to be able to say no more. We're not that. We're not going to be that. That's what it means to me. So I just, just to bring something to the forefront that lets people know we don't have to stay in the past and we can forge our future.
And ladies and gentlemen, Rosa Parks has joined us. Let's give her a big welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We've just been talking about what this means to be a part of bringing these voices alive, and any part of the story, Rosa Parks' story, that you did not know about as you are developing this character for If These Dolls Could Talk.
It's quite an endearing journey. Just learning, just hearing the different parts as we go through rehearsals of stuff that, even though it's a part of my cultural history that I didn't know myself, but learning and researching Rosa Parks, just learning about her as a person, her demeanor, how she carried herself, even having the opportunity to hear the way her voice sounded. Was quite a privilege to me, because I know some of the characters, because of their age or the era that they were born in, that we don't have that privilege to even hear their voice. So that was actually quite special for me, that I could look her up and hear her voice and actually be able to hear what she sounded like, and give my best attempt to try to emulate some of her mannerisms and to present the character how she would actually try to present herself. I think that's actually quite special that I have that privilege and ability to be able to do that, because some of the characters don't have that option to do that.
Right, because I was looking for Ida B. Wells to try to see what she sounded like. But, I feel her anyway.
Indeed.
Yeah, I feel her, and the energy is just amazing. This is not only us bringing their voices alive, but this play is filled with music. Ella Fitzgerald is not with us tonight, but she is an amazing vocalist. And she sings "Summertime," and I'm just loving it. Now, did I hear you talking about some choreography? Now, are you expecting me to move?
Yes. A little bit. Yes. Nothing difficult, but yes. Yes, indeed.
So what's that going to be like? I need to put on some Chicago stepping, or what? What do I need to do?
Not at all.
The music is going to knock your socks off.
Fine.
The music is going to knock my socks off?
Yes, it's a quite beautiful piece. Actually, I think it's a lovely piece. Do I say what it is?
You can tell.
It is. I got to keep it a secret. It's a piece by Sarah Vaughan. She has an extraordinary voice. It's Somebody to Love Me. I think that's what it's called.
Someone to watch over me.
Someone to watch over me. It's actually a piece that I had never heard, because I had just I'm not so familiar with a lot of her stuff, but I am familiar with her voice. She has an amazing voice. And it was a toss-up between the two pieces. Both were very, very fitting for the show to portray. It all just depended on what you wanted to portray in the mind's eye of the audience once they heard the music, because you could still put in the same movements to two very, very different songs, but it's all about once that music hits the ear, the vision, the overall atmosphere that you wanted to create, and the vision that you wanted to get the audience to overarch over the ladies, and what I wanted them to get, because we already know that they're strong Black women, because we already have, I don't want to call it stigma, but they already have that idea in their minds. But what I wanted them to understand as soon as they heard that beautiful song is that these weren't just women, these are ladies.
Yes.
And Black women don't often get that label as a lady.
Yeah.
Rarely treated as a woman, and even throughout history as a human being. So as soon as you hear that beautiful music and you start seeing the very feminine and light movements, I wanted, with the very story of all the fighting and the strength and the perseverance, I want the audience to be able to say, that's a lady. And
Well,
have
who better to tell our stories than us? Dr. Lotus Richey says, hello, everyone. You need to book us on your show, Dr. Lotus Richey, because even though this show is in Gainesville and you're in another part of the United States, it's still good to be able to share this with audiences across the country. Rhonda has done a magnificent job in writing this play, If These Dolls Could Talk. These are actually Barbie dolls that they're now making Barbie dolls of historic figures in the African American community. And none of these women are where they are because anybody was just needing to put somebody there of color. None of them. They all deserve to be there, and their work speaks volumes about them. And as we are in this space and time, for any of you or all of you, how critical is it that we tell these stories today?
It is, oh, excuse me, ladies first. It is extremely important because just of the things that you learn about them, about the plight of women throughout the centuries. And the fun fact, Ida, for example, Ida eulogized Bessie Coleman.
Really?
Yeah.
I
She
just
didn't know
learned
that.
that.
We just learned.
Bessie unfortunately died from an airplane accident
Okay.
where
Right.
she fell 2,000 feet to the ground because she did not have her seatbelt fastened.
After
And then,
finally buying herself a plane.
yeah, but then she was getting ready to open her own school. But
Mm.
there was a pilot named John Wills who, unfortunately, the pilot that was maintaining the airplane left a wrench and that got jammed into the motor and he lost control and they plunged 2,000 feet to her death.
Mm.
And he died also. He died in the plane, but Bessie fell 2,000 feet
And
to her
Ida B.
death,
Wells did her eulogy.
and Ida did a eulogy.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Um, Rosa Rosa had a long history of the civil rights activism long before the bus strike. Um,
The
her
boycott.
and her husband had worked on the Scottsboro Boys, their case. You know, um, she had also, unfortunately, after the strike was over, they had to move to Detroit because they were getting so many threats and
Yeah.
they couldn't find work in Montgomery.
Yeah, that's the other, you know, Ida B. Wells having to move from Memphis because they
Mhm.
wanted to kill her
Yeah.
for telling about people being killed.
Mhm. Rosa also wrote 4 books.
Go ahead, Kevin.
you know, she uh, she wrote Quiet Strength, um, Dream Mrs. Parks, I Am Rosa Parks, and My Strength.
Mhm.
Uh, Rosa was a very interesting person. Um, Maya,
Yes.
singer, actress,
Poet,
Dancer.
poet,
writer,
writer, 7 books to her credit.
speaker.
Yes, a
Yeah,
wanted speaker and autobiographer.
Yes.
and sometimes when I'm hearing people talk about what they're doing about taking Black history out of our schools, and I'm not bothered by that. And the reason I'm not bothered by that is because it is now causing us to recognize, well, wait a minute, you weren't teaching us that much anyway. So now let us do it.
The reality is they can take it out to schools all they want. The lessons will still be taught. Because in the past, the way we handed it down was verbally from
Right,
generation to generation.
right.
Now we're going to hand it down still the same way.
And
But
and I think
we
I
have people on the receiving end that can write these things and keep them.
And I think we're going to be way more intentional about it because this has just brought to light how little was being taught and how much more there is to be taught.
Mhm.
And, families are taking responsibility for doing it. People are talking about African American history at family reunions. They're not just gathering, they're talking about uh, their family's history as well as teaching their children about African
Mhm.
American history. So, this is a perfect example of what the devil meant for evil. God meant it for our good. And
Mhm.
that is what If These Dolls Could Talk represent to me, for us to be able to dig deeper and to continue to share these stories even after this show is over. This is being done during Women's History Month, March 8th through the 16th. So Saturday, the 8th is opening night, 8th and 9th. And then the next week, the show will be on the 14th, 15th, and 16th at the Star Theater in Gainesville, Florida. Now, what I would encourage people to do, I want you to come. However, I want you to bring some young people with you. Don't come alone. Bring some young people with you so that we can share these stories with them. I just want to thank my guest tonight for coming to Sisters of Wellness to be a part of this show. And I salute each of you and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this incredible production. I just feel like we're going to do it more than those two
Thank you
weekends.
for your contribution,
Indeed.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Mwah.
all of you.
Thank you, Kevin, for lending your genius to this production and helping us give more to these ladies as we bring their voices to life. It is written by Rhonda Wilson, the founder and um, executive director of the Stars Theater in Gainesville, Florida. If These Dolls Could Talk. The stories of Ida B. Wells, who's a journalist, writer, and speaker, Betsy Coleman, aviator, Madam C.J. Walker, businesswoman, the first millionaire, the first female millionaire in America
Hmm.
of any color.
So, any color.
How in the world is that not looked at in every business school?
Hmm.
The first female millionaire, Ella Fitzgerald, entertainer and singer Maya Angelou, poet, writer, actor, and singer, and Rosa Parks, civil rights activist. These are some amazing stories, and We just want to thank Rhonda for the work that she's doing. She is a part of another play tonight, a rehearsal for another play. That's why she could not join us. But we thank her very much for bringing us together to share these stories. So again, thank you all so much for being a part of Sisters of Wellness tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for joining. We look forward to seeing you next week. May the seeds that we have planted tonight and the stories that we have told take root in your hearts and minds, blossoming into strength, purpose, and hope. Until next time, keep sowing, keep growing, keep shining, and eat well, drink lots of water. I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.